the June 3rd meeting of the Newmarket Town Council. And the very first thing that I want to make sure that we do is to seal the minutes, or well, we need to come out of non-public.
We need to do you already came out of non-public. So now you need to seal the minutes. But before you do that, I need to read the emergency notice.
Sorry.
As the chair of the town council, Tony Weinstein, due to the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis, in accordance with the Governor Sununu's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, the town council is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there's no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to the meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, this is providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or electronic means. We're now using the Zoom platform for electronic meetings. All members of the council have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through the Zoom platform, and the public has access contemporaneously to listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through dialing the following phone number: 1-646-558-8656. And the access code is 911-702-5727. Or by clicking the following link for a website address. That's https://zoom.us/j/911-702-5727. Public note. We also provide a public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, and provided a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there's problems with access. If anybody has a problem, please call 603-292-1221. And if there is a systematic failure, the public is unable to attend the meeting will be adjourned. Please note that during this meeting are done by roll call. And beginning is roll call attendance. I'd ask each member to state their name and whether or not they're alone in the room that they're in. Councilor Finch.
Present and alone.
Councilor Sanders.
Present and alone.
Councilor Dumont. Councilor Dumont.
Sorry, I couldn't get it to unmute. I'm present and alone.
Councilor Kuiper.
Present and alone.
Councilor Matthews.
Present and alone.
Councilor Burns.
Present and alone.
Councilor Weinstein.
Present and alone.
Okay, it's all yours now.
Great. So the first order of business is for us to seal the minutes of our non-public. So I would accept a motion to seal those minutes.
I'll make a motion to seal the minutes from our non-public meeting.
Second.
Seeing no hands, if you can call the roll, please.
Councilor Finch.
Aye.
Councilor Sanders. Spacebar.
Spacebar wasn't working. I think it's the same problem they ran. It was Zachary.
Councilor
Aye.
Councilor Dumont.
Aye.
Councilor Kuiper.
Aye.
Councilor Matthews. Councilor Burns.
Aye.
Councilor Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. The next thing, this is not on the agenda, but I think that we would be remiss if we didn't take this opportunity to comment about the recent events that have been unfolding in front of our eyes. I think that, I often feel fortunate to live in a small town in, fairly rural area, but we're not immune to racism, and in light of everything that's happened, in memory of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor, I just want to take a moment of silence. But before I do that, I also wanted to give the opportunity to any other counselors who might want to say a few words. Counselor Finch.
I'm glad that we're taking this moment of silence. We are very fortunate to live in the town that we live in. We are very fortunate to have law enforcement that is very engaged with the community, and we feel safe with our law enforcement. I would like the rest of the country to feel that we do, so I support this moment of silence.
Thank you. Councillor Kuiper.
I just want to say that we're blessed that our police department is really part of the community. I mean, members of the police department live in our town or live very close by, spend time here, or, when they're not even on duty. And I think many of the community members would say that they know them by name, and see them around and say hi. They give, the stickers to the kids and stuff. And I would say Chief True is doing a really good job of being part of the community with his involvement in the Newmarket Substance Abuse Alliance Prevention, whatever the acronym is. He got involved right at the beginning, and he was immediately receptive to what the community had to say about the heroin problem. And he was right in there saying, we can't arrest our way out of this. And I was really surprised to hear him say that. I was really shocked and impressed. And I have been the entire time I lived in this town. I just want to say, we have a great police force. I've seen them deal with some situations that, could go on one way or the other. And they were very cool, calm, and collected. And I think, they could, everywhere in the country had a police force like ours.
Thank you. Councillor Matthews.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. I think it's really important that all of us in the positions we have really speak out. So thank you, everyone here. I'm just going to read the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
Councillor Sanders.
I just want to say that none of us can fix this alone. Together we can make change happen.
Thank you. And so with that, I'd just like to take a brief moment of silence, please. Thank you. So with that, the first item on our agenda this evening is a public forum, and seeing no members of the public. Steve? No.
Nope.
Then I will move on. And so the next item is for the town council to consider acceptance of minutes. And so I would accept a motion for us to approve the non-public minutes of the May 20th meeting with the changes that were discussed in non-public.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes from the May 20th meeting per the changes that have been discussed.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Then if you could call the roll, please.
Council Finch.
Aye.
Council Sanders.
Aye.
Council Dumont.
Aye.
Council Kuiper.
Aye.
Council Matthews.
Aye.
Council Burns.
Aye.
Council Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Is for the council to consider the minutes of May 20th, the regular meeting. And so I would accept a motion to approve those minutes.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes from the May 20th, 2020 meeting.
I will second.
I did have one, well, actually before that, Did anybody else have any questions or changes? I had one. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna have to pull it up. So it was on page 4 in the first paragraph. Let me just get to it. So it says, and this could just be the way that I'm reading it. It just says the town manager Fournier said the percentage is not off base. The finance director is monitoring the situation, and they were able to put in $223,000 for non-FEMA expenses. When I read that, it sounded like we could put in for that amount. That's the total amount that we're eligible for.
Correct.
And so I just wanted to make sure that that was clarified.
Yeah,
That we're eligible for 200.
eligible for that amount.
So that was my only change. So seeing no other hands, if you could call the roll, please.
Councilor Finch,
Aye.
Councilor Sanders,
Aye.
Aye.
Councilor Kuiper,
Aye.
Councilor Matthews,
Aye.
Councilor Burns,
Aye.
Councilor Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
And so the next item is the town manager's report. So
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I get into my written report, I also want to express my sadness and concerns over the tragic events that have been happening recently, and most recently in Minneapolis. After my report, I did ask Chief True to attend the meeting. Well, he's there for something else, but also to address it with the council in case you guys have any questions for him. So I'll just get into my report and then go from there. On the COVID-19 response, we've been holding meetings on basically what we're forming as a reopening group. Our goal is to be reopened by June 29th. When I say reopened, it's basically going to be the clerk's office at a very limited amount to include the safety aspects. I attended a webinar today on how to safely reopen town buildings. And one of the things that people need to realize is that the 6 feet guidance is still in effect. And when we say 6 feet, it doesn't mean 6 feet side by side. It also means in front. So we're going around doing everything from measuring desks to measuring the hallways to see how many people we can get in there. And also we'll probably end up having to queue people up outside of town hall to enter the town clerk's office. We just don't have that amount of room. We're also going to be asking people not to come in. We're not going to allow more than one person per transaction. So we're going to ask if you have children with you, please do not come to town hall with them. Please do your services online. We ask everybody to please continue to do your services online. We're basically going to be only open for new car registrations or anything that we cannot do via online. We're also going to be requiring face masks for every individual who enters the building. There's still question. I mean, I know it's a big thing right now in the public, but that's being decided in the courts. But we can do that for our building. So we will be requiring individuals who come into the building for a face mask. If you do not wish to wear a face mask, we will be able to conduct the business outside. But if you want to come in the building, you'll have to wear a face mask. This is still draft at this point in time, and I'm having department heads review it. Department heads will also make their own guidelines because they're more familiar with their operations and what makes sense. So we're going to be working on that for the other departments such as PD, fire, public works, water and sewer, etc. I know the library has begun curbside book checkout, and it seems to be going very well. So I'd encourage people to do that as well. The other large thing that we're working on is a reopening plan for summer camp. I'm going to be meeting with the rec director, the police chief, the fire chief, and the health officer to review potential plans tomorrow on site. Of course, we'll all be masked, and determining what we can and cannot do to try to save the summer program this year. Just to let everybody know that this year is, and this is one of the benefits of our form, that we have a revolving fund. While we're going to be having, we'll probably take a loss on this recreation program this year, all the positive years we've had, we're able to fund this through the surplus in the rec revolving fund. So we understand that this is not we're not a for-profit situation. We're trying to provide a service so individuals be able to either go back to work or, let their kids get out of the house for a little bit and get some sanity. Again, understand that the governor's groups of 10 rule is still in effect on these as well. So that's what we're trying to determine. To continue with youth activities, in my written report, the governor has allowed the restarting of sports activities, amateur sports activities. I've worked with the recreation director to come up with a permit to allow for such activities to take place. And I kind of want to read the list to show what the restrictions are for the public of how these programs are going to go on. And this is for a lot of things that's going to happen. For athletes and staff, including administrative coaches, trainers, and officials, they must be provided education training around safe practices. Athletes and staff must maintain at least 6 feet apart from others at all times. So there's no contact sports during this situation. Staff and athletes should be screened on arrival of each sporting event for symptoms or interactions with someone who has had COVID-19. Staff and other volunteers should not transport any athletes that are not immediate family members. In the event this becomes necessary, all parties must wear cloth face coverings and spaced out seating to maintain maximum distance from each other in the field. Staff and other volunteers should not during training session practices, parents and spectators are highly encouraged to remain in their cars in a designated parking area. However, when they're watching on the sidelines or are outside cars in the parking area, they should maintain safe social distance from others. Locker rooms and bathrooms remain closed, not utilized. That includes porta potties. Athletes and staff should arrive at the sporting events already dressed and prepared to participate. Limited small groups or team-based activities. No competition sporting events or contact sports are allowed. Group size is limited to 10 total people or less. For example, that means 9. Can you hear me?
No, you're breaking up. It's
okay.
Warbly. Oh, that was better.
Okay, can you still?
Oh, that's better.
Okay. And maybe I was facing the wrong way. I'll have to hold out. Group size is to be limited to a total of 10 people or less. Example, 9 athletes and 1 coach. That's it. Staff and athletes shall remain in the team's home state. No teams, groups, athletes from others. To CDC guidance after every use between athletes. Coaches will carry hand sanitizer with team equipment, and players should as well. Athletes water, no sharing of common use water bottles or drinking stations. Equipment bags, backpacks of athletes should be placed 6 feet apart. Athletes should not touch other players' bags, equipment, or water bottles. Participants should not use bench or dugout areas for storage of personal equipment. Centralized areas for congregating, such as benches and dugouts, should be avoided. All mouth-based activities often encouraged with sporting events shall not be allowed. This includes coaches shall bring trash bags to sessions, remove all garbage following each session. Organizations shall require players, parents, guardians to sign usual participation waivers outlining the additional risk due to COVID-19 associated with the activity. On Monday, we held a virtual meeting with all the league presidents and people involved in amateur athletics in Newmarket to explain to them these rules and some additional ones that we have for them. One thing I want everybody to know and the public to know that we are very serious about this, that if we have one team that violates this policy and they will all need to sign it, the league will lose the permit, not the team. Somehow, yeah, okay.
You keep going in and out.
Yeah, I've got to double check. Hold on. How is this?
Oh, better.
Okay. So I just want to reiterate, if one coach wants to be overzealous and try to practice and it's when we find out about it, the whole league will lose their permit. Because we need to make sure that we're following the guidelines by the governor's office. So I just want everybody to know that. The next item, elections. As you know, due to the pandemic, we're encouraging people to vote absentee if they do not feel safe at the polls. In addition, we thought it would be wise to try to establish more than one polling location to encourage social distancing for elections. The town attorney is still working with the Secretary of State's office and the Attorney General's office to see if they will allow us to open additional polling places alphabetically by last name, as I previously mentioned. Both offices indicated while it's a good idea, current law does not allow it. In the meantime, I asked the Stratford Regional Planning Commission to create voting districts or wards, dividing the town by population. They were able to do so and provided me with a potential ward map. And the council has a copy of it, and I could probably actually share the screen if I can do that. Oh no, the host needs to allow me to share the screen because I give authority over to. Tony, you're muted.
I'm not sure how to do that.
Let me try.
How do I?
I'm going to take back hosting from you.
Yeah, please.
I can. Do this. I think I can. Okay, nothing's working on mine.
Mm-mm.
Okay, there we go. Everybody can see it?
There it is.
So, just to show everybody, that's how roughly the wards would be divided. We'd have North Newmarket as wards would serve as Ward 1, and South Newmarket would serve as Ward 2. Main Street, which borders the ward line, all residents of Main Street would be residents of Ward 1 and vote at the, I'll get to that in a second. Grant Road, which serves as a border as well, that would all residents there would vote in Ward 2. Ash Swamp Road is bisected. So Ash Swamp north of Grant would be in Ward 1, which is south of Grant would be, I think I wrote this wrong now. I look at this, hold on. Right. Ward 1 would be house numbers 10 through 230, and Ward 2 would be 232 to 389. Just so you know that. Ward 1 for the primary would be Town Hall, and Ward 1 for the general election would be the high school. These would be referred to as the central polling locations, and the moderator would be serving there. Ward 2 for the primary would be the rec center, and Ward 2 for the general would be the elementary school. I've included a breakdown of the streets in this report. We can accomplish this without the special legislation needed from the state. The council established additional polling places. We would educate voters by sending letters to all voters explaining the situation and what wards they are in. We'd also send out press info and put the information on the website. In addition, we could possibly use code red to call geographic locations to notify them what wards they are in. We have worked with the moderator, myself, and the town clerk to try to achieve this. So we're going, if there's no objection, I'm going to introduce the legislation at the next meeting to allow for the division. And I see Councilor Dumont has a question.
Yes. I get that this is only COVID-19 related. I would just ask that legislation specify that these wards and extra polling be tailored solely around COVID-19. And until the crisis has abated. But I am kind of curious in terms of voting machinery, especially like the ballot collector. Do we have to get a second one of those? Are we going to put them in a secured voting boxes and then bring them over? What's the plan?
What we've already secured we're securing a second voting box. The reason for that, we were doing that anyways because we don't want people in the building. So we don't want that line in to leave the- more boxes we can get out.
Losing audio again.
I can't. I've got to close the screen. I'm sorry. Okay, this is really odd because this is both of my audios.
That's better though. It's just kind of, it gets warbly and then it gets better.
Okay. I'll try to project more. So yeah, that's the situation we're gonna, because we don't want to have people hanging out at any of the polling places. They got to get in and get out. So we're gonna try to lower, keep the lines as quick as possible. I see Councilor Matthews has his hand up as well.
Steve, I was just thinking, so do we need to have multiple counselors at each polling station?
You need to be there to certify the vote. We also ask you to volunteer to help with this. So yes, we're asking counselors to volunteer. We will be providing PPE and all the necessary equipment for all the polling places. But yes, we'd probably divide you and work in each of the polling places.
I'm not seeing any other hands. I just wanted to mention on the election piece. I like the idea. Mentioned the concept of having the wards divided by last name. I thought, oh, that's a great idea. And then, besides the fact that we might not be allowed to do it from the state, I could see a situation where people living in the same house might have different last names, and some might be in different polling places, and I can see where that would be really confusing. So having it more just based on address makes more sense to me now. So I'm certainly in favor of this, but agree with Councillor Dumont that it should be clear that this is for this year. And then if we need to, who knows?
And that's what I was just going to mention that. I would ask that you keep in mind that you may want to use this again. So not to say it's a one-time thing. If it proves successful, think of the number of times you've had lines out the doors for bond votes or other state election, even not during COVID time, that you may want to be able to have the opportunity to split up the polling places. This is sort of a trial run due to COVID, but you may find out that it's more beneficial to do so. But we can put in a sunset clause in the resolution.
It's bittersweet, right?
Yeah,
like it's
exactly.
I love voting day because everyone comes to one place, and so yeah. But I completely understand the need, certainly in this circumstance, and I see your point. I've attended plenty of elections that have been challenging for people, either because of parking or lines or multiple reasons.
And that's it. I mean, you got to understand the city of Franklin, which is about 3,000 people less than Newmarket, has 3 voting wards because it's a city. But that's the way it is. It's they're able to get people in and out quicker by having that. So just that so what I'll do is I'll drop the necessary legislation, put it before the council. I know the moderator is willing to come in and discuss it with the council as well if there's any questions, so we can set that up too.
I think that was super helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to remind the council that next Wednesday at 6 p.m. is going to be our goal setting session with Primex. You should have all received an email from me with some of the instructions to do your homework ahead of time. But it should go pretty well. The next item, just a reminder that we traditionally only meet once. We do a summer schedule. I would suggest that we meet July 15th and August 5th. It gives us a, it's a good amount of time there. If we need to have another meeting, we can always call one. I mean, we're doing everything remotely. Um,
We lost you there. No. Oh, now you're back.
I'm not even doing anything, so.
Yeah, no, you're better.
Okay. And somebody needs to tell me they can't, I'm not looking at anybody, so don't point like that. Finally, I wanted to congratulate longtime town employee John Paholpic on his retirement after almost 20 years with the town. He retired last week. It was a little difficult to have a party during this time, but we were able to have a small send-off. Now, at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Chief True to have some discussions on basically what you brought up earlier in the meeting. I am going to take myself off so I can try to fix my mic. Chief, you have to unmute yourself too, Chief.
Can everybody hear me okay? First off, thank you for having me here tonight. Circumstances, it's still difficult to speak about. First off, thanks to the council for the kind words about the officers. I know it's going to mean a lot to them, and I plan on sharing your words with them. The words that I express to them is pride in in the job that they do every day, and to hear from the outside, especially from a council, a body who oversees our town government, it means a lot. So thank you. I can tell you that there's probably no one in this community more outraged or angered than myself for a whole litany of reasons. Some I'll get into and some I won't get into. But I can say that the officers here in Newmarket have worked extremely hard over decades of trying to change culture here and make it a wonderful place to live, where you can walk down Main Street and interact with a police officer on a first name basis and have just a nice conversation. We've come to that point. And because of the actions of 4 disgraced police officers 1,400 miles away, who lost all humanity and took the life unnecessarily and inexcusably from another human being, is just outrageous. I spoke out early against it. I didn't care what other chiefs thought. I didn't care what other police officers thought. It was from my heart, and it was from my soul. Watching the video like you, I couldn't breathe when he couldn't breathe. It's still difficult to watch. It's still difficult to talk about. I can tell you that the officers here are shaken up, but they're not going to give up, and they're going to continue to focus on community-oriented policing. There are things that we put in place a long time ago that would prevent this type of action happening in this community. We've put in place fair and impartial policing policy that got the thumbs up by the I'm sorry, not the NAACP, but the ACLU, that dictates any law enforcement contact will never, ever, ever be the basis of the color of someone's skin, gender identity, sexual orientation, religion, culture, perceived culture. It will never be the contact, the initial contact, ever. We hold our accountable to these standards, and as long as I'm here, we will continue to hold them accountable to these standards. We have highly trained police officers who are trained quite often on use of force, state law, our department policies. We take advantage of virtual simulators, and where we have evidence-based de-escalation scenarios. We have forged a wonderful relationship with the NAACP. In fact, the president of the NAACP, Rogers Johnson, who I consider not only a colleague but a friend, when I first became chief, was supposed to be a 20-minute meet and greet, ended up being a 2-hour meeting in my office, and actually gave me guidance on how we can actually diversify our police department more to represent the community. And it was something very simple. Send a letter directly to the NAACP asking them to apply. And we've done that, and we've been successful. We've got great candidates coming from all walks of life. But it's not enough. We still need to get better. We still need to root out any type of racism and bigotry. One thing that's concerning for me is because of the actions of these disgraced police officers. I don't even like to call them anymore. I'm concerned about the safety of my officers. And that weighs on me daily. And I think the only way that we can prove ourselves to the community is through how we represent ourselves and how we present ourselves and how we continue to do the community-based interactions. Having the school resource officer in the school to deal with the younger kids, that they see that we're not robots. We're human beings that wear uniforms. And the uniforms are based on tradition. We explain what the tradition of the uniform is to the young person. And I think we still need to continue that way, that course. It's working for us. And like I said, there's no one more angered than me. And I think about what happened, and I think about the family, and I think about what's going on across our country, and I'm disgusted that it's burning down. And I'm all in. I'm all in. I was all in 27 years ago when I signed up. I'm still all in today. I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding this topic.
I'm not seeing any other hands, so before other comments, but I did want to mention one thing, and I had received, first of all, thank you for everything that you do for our community. I've had the opportunity to work with you since before you were chief, and you are a fantastic leader. So thank you. One of the, I had someone reach out to me earlier today, and I forwarded my response, her letter and my response to her, to you. And I didn't realize that there was a movement, I guess, to ask some particular questions, which rightly, as you commented on your response to me, are appropriate questions to be asking our police chiefs. And so those questions were whether or not we use body cameras, and whether or not you have de-escalation policies, procedures, and training. You've already answered the de-escalation piece. I did explain to this resident that we've explored not just you, but the police chief to you. So over the last 6 years, 7 years, I guess, explored the use of body cameras. And for various reasons, decided that it wasn't really suitable at that time. And so I guess my question is, do you foresee this, because in your statement to the council, which was I guess about a year ago, I think, your statement to the council was, maybe we would revisit it at another time. And so my question is it an appropriate time to revisit the use of body cameras, in your opinion?
Absolutely. And I remember it was about a year ago, and I think I left it with the council when I sent the memo discussing why we chose not at the time to go with them, that I didn't want to close the door on the idea, because I think it has a purpose. At the time, there were some issues that came up about privacy issues with citizens' rights, and that the court was lacking, I guess you could say, case law on whether or not you could record within somebody's home, and there was no definition of lawful judicial entry into somebody's home was. And at the time, we were waiting for the court to litigate certain cases and provide us some more guidance on case law. The officers enjoyed the body cameras. They liked them. The biggest issue was whether or not we would be setting the town up for liability if we use them improperly. And we had a huge concern about the right to privacy of our citizens. I think it's a great idea to explore again and come back to the council with another finding and maybe research to see if we have some case law that's been litigated. And again, I've never closed the door on that. This would be the third time we've researched it, and I think it's I don't think you should ever close the door on any type of idea that will make law enforcement more accountable or trustworthy to the public, because that's what we need right now. We need to be trusted and we need to be held accountable.
Again, seeing no other hands. One other comment that I wanted to mention, I was talking with a neighbor today, and we were talking about, everything that's been happening in the world. And she commented to me that just the other day, she saw a police officer walking down Main Street, and we were talking, and it's funny because I saw the same police officer walking down Main Street, and it struck me how out of the ordinary that was, but also incredibly lovely. And so I don't know if he was going to get a sandwich, but it appeared that he was, kind of like when I grew up, right? Like if you think about old TV shows and movies and the town that I grew up in, there is a policeman on the street. So I don't know if that was intentional or we just happened to see the same policeman on the same day getting a sandwich. I'm not sure. So I'm curious if that's something that you foresee changing.
Well, I think I can tell you that we've picked up on the parking enforcement. So it could have been someone out chalking tires or tickets. So not to rain on your parade, but the officers generally enjoy getting out of the car and walking Main Street. It interacting with the public for a variety of reasons. For one, a lot of our officers are outgoing, friendly officers that just enjoy interaction with. Most of them, I'm an old school police officer. I love the term peace officer, and I don't know how it changed from peace officer to police officer, but since I've been here, I've tried to act as a peace officer, and like Councilor Kuiper said earlier, certain things that we've adjusted in law enforcement, that when we admit that we cannot arrest our way out of a heroin problem, you have to think outside the box and try something new. Well, guess what? It worked. A lot of people thought it wasn't going to work, but it worked. And I just think that there's more to law enforcement. Keeping the streets safe and being visible for people to see us as human beings, as opposed to just out there giving out speeding tickets and arresting people. And I think we're very fortunate to have the group that we have. But that doesn't mean we can be complacent in our policies. It doesn't mean we can be complacent in our training. It means we have to double down on our training because we're under the microscope, and we accept that. I accept that. The buck stops with me here, and I accept that.
And Tony, if I just want to add, I know there's a lot of questions too about individuals' First Amendment rights, and we support people's right for First Amendment, and to the point where we know there were some individuals demonstrating yesterday afternoon about this, that we went down to specifically make sure that they were not going to be harassed, that they had the right to exercise their right to free speech. And we know that there's an event tomorrow evening as well, and the chief and I will both be in attendance. But I just want to make sure people realize that we know that those who are demonstrating are doing so for the right reasons, and those who are rioting are doing so for the wrong reasons.
Councillor Matthews.
Yeah, I think to Chief True and Steve, I think just to play on that, you know, I think we're going to see a lot more people downtown demonstrating, holding signs. And I think is there guidance on that? What is the Newmarket Police Department's, you know, do they have any tips? You know, stand 6 feet apart, you know, maybe try to give space on the sidewalk so still people can get by. Yeah.
Thank you for that question. We would ask that you still socially distance. We would ask that you be good neighbors, and if you can't socially distance, that you be a good neighbor and wear a mask. We would ask that you not interfere with traffic. Main Street, even without people walking up and down the sidewalk, it's still a congested downtown with cars and kids and people walking dogs and bicycles. So I would just ask that anyone who would like to exercise their First Amendment privilege, welcome to Newmarket. You will not get any interference from this police department as long as I'm here. It won't happen. I encourage peacefulness. I encourage protest. People need to exercise the right. People want to be heard, and we're going to listen. But I would ask that they do it peacefully. I would ask that they, you know, maintain social distance and not interfere with any traffic. The last thing that we want to deal with is someone being hit by a car on Main Street. Thank you for the question, and I hope I answered it.
Madam Chair, if I may, we understand that former President Obama put out a call for people to contact their mayors and chief executives of their communities, literally right before this meeting started. But I could tell you that during the time that you guys were meeting, the chief and I have been meeting to figure out what kind of answers that we can give, so everybody's going to get the same answer. We support giving the information to the public on what the right procedures are, and we'll do that. You know, we're starting to get the emails in, so we just want to let everybody know that we are going to address that.
Great, thank you. And again, thank you, Chief True, for being here, for talking to us, and for all of the work that you do on behalf of all of the residents of Newmarket.
Thank you for having me, and my email is always available. My phone is always available, and feel free to reach out to me anytime if you have any questions. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm gonna mute out of here, Stephen. Wait.
Yep.
Before we move on, were there any other? There was a lot of information in the town manager's report, and so were there any other questions about any of the other items? Councillor Matthews.
Hey, Steve, just following up on our last meeting, just were you able to look into the Public Works 2020 overtime costs being about $19,000 over the 2019 overtime costs?
Yes, Councillor. The reasoning is for because of the Lumberland Creek project, which was all reimbursed through grant.
Sorry. Councillor Kuiper.
Got a quick question about the summer camp. I know you're probably still working on that, but do you have a date at which you'll be able to determine maybe if it's going to happen, just for parents looking for the summer for childcare?
I don't want to promise it'll be like tomorrow, but I'm hoping we'll have an answer by sometime next week.
I had a quick question about, I have a few items, but a quick question about the sports guidelines. Do you, I guess, does the school utilizes our fields? Do they need to follow those same guidelines?
Yes.
So, and do they on any other fields that they have, do they have the same guidelines, I guess?
Yes. Any amateur athletics has to follow these guidelines.
Okay. Councillor Matthews? Oh, is that from before? Okay. And then I had just a couple like follow-up things. You might not have the answer to this, Steve, but somebody reached out to me about the McAllen Dam drawdown specifically, because I know that it's going to be I remember what happened last time, and it's going to be longer and more extensive if I heard, or maybe it's just longer.
A little bit longer.
Do you know when that's going to happen?
I do not yet. We try to do it when it's again when it's lower, so it's not much of an impact. I'll try to find out.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that'd
don't.
be great.
Yep.
For anybody who lives near the water and utilizes the water, I think that'll be important, especially this particular summer where so many things are closed. So it's challenging. So yeah, that would be fantastic. And then I was curious if either the town manager or maybe Councillor Kuiper wanted to mention if there was any update on the request for the Johnny Boston's restaurant to.
All approved.
Oh, it did. Okay.
I can tell you that after the last week, we had a number of permits come in and just signing off and trying to get them back out. I've got another one today for the Polish Club, but we are getting a number of them in.
Good. I'm not seeing any other hands, so if I can go back to my agenda. Moving on. That's not the agenda. To committee reports. I should know this stuff by now. I should know what comes next, but Councillor Dumont.
The budget committee met on Monday night. Steve was there, as well as Dave Jack from the school. Just discussed our mutual budgets progress to see how things have been going. As far as I am aware, we are still choosing to meet throughout the summer, our one meeting a month for regular check-ins. At this time, there's nothing of significance to report back, but if you have any questions or vice versa, I'll be sure to pass them through.
I'm not seeing any other hands. I will say that the Energy and Environment Committee met last night. We elected a new chair and vice chair and secretary. So I'm happy to announce that I am not in any of those three positions. Pete Nelson is going to be the chair of the Energy and Environment Committee. Andy DeMeo, the vice chair, and Nicole Gruitt-Matthews is going to serve as the secretary. So there are still three positions available. Wait, I have to do the math. Yeah, no, two positions available on that committee. There might be a third. So if you know anybody who might be interested, that would be wonderful. Councillor Sanders.
We now seem to have everybody that we need for the Arts and Tourism Committee. So I was going to try to get in touch with everyone via email, see if we can arrange a first meeting over the summer and elect some officers and get that off the ground.
Awesome. Any word on the Riverfront Advisory Committee?
I have none at this point, but I'm going to try to get them moving soon. Okay.
And that's it, I guess. I'm not seeing any other hands. So old business resolutions in the second reading. First up is resolution 2019-2020-31, the purchase of portable police radios. And I would accept a motion to approve that resolution.
I will make a motion to approve resolution 2019-2020-31 for the purchase of 5 Motorola A6000 portable radios.
I will second that.
The chief is here to answer any questions and explain the situation.
Did you want to explain anything first before you take questions, or do you want to?
I'd be happy to explain the idea behind the purchase. Everybody hear me?
Yep.
Okay. This is part of a 3-year plan to replace our current portables. Right now we have no spare portables in the police department. They are costly to fix. So we would like to purchase 5 Motorola APX 6000 radios. The total cost is $14,866. The money would come out of the capital reserve dispatch account. Currently, there's $161,052 in it. This is a sole source purchase with Motorola. It's like buying a Yeti cooler. The price is the same no matter where you go. So if I were to go to Ospey Mountain, it would be the same if I went to Atkinson Motors. It's the price is the price is the price. The idea is to, since this is it could be an expensive purchase, the idea is to, instead of overloading on the first, to make a purchase over 3 years, and I'm sorry, over 6 years. Make 5 purchases every other year for 6 years. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Sorry, I was muted. So we do have a couple questions. So Councillor Dumont.
I just have a few of them. I'll try to make sure that they're simple. What's the average lifespan of these radios? Second is, I see that we're going with Motorola. Is it just kind of standard industry practice to stick with Motorola? Are there other radios out there, or do you just find that this works the best? And I'm asking this simply because it seems like all of the equipment that we get tends to be from the same brand. So I just wasn't sure, what it was.
So a long time ago, I got spoken to about speaking how one product is better than the other because I was advertising. But I'm late in my career, so I don't mind. Motorola is probably the portable radio and the actual digital radio that the majority of the state uses. They're interoperable with other agencies. Our vendors are close by, so when they break down, we can have them fixed. They stand behind their product. They've got great warranties. Right now are Motorola, so if we had to use a part, if we had to replace a button, we could pull it off another Motorola radio right now. Kind of like with our firearms, we carry Sig Sauer firearms. We wouldn't replace 5 Sig Sauers with Glocks. We would try to have some consistency. I think that was the first. What was our second part of your question?
Yeah, I was just curious to know what the average lifespan is on these radios.
So I did some research, and I found that the last time we made a purchase was we purchased one in 2014, and believe it or not, the purchase order from 2014 was actually more expensive than what we're paying today. I couldn't find anything newer than 2014. And I couldn't tell you which batch of portables that this came from. I can tell you that I would say that the portable that I carry is at least 10 years old. Mine is not going to be one of the ones that get replaced, and we're going to put it on the line with the street officers first.
Thank you.
Councillor Matthews.
Can you all hear me? My headset died on me.
Yes.
Yep.
Great, thank you. Chief Drew, I just had a question. So you had mentioned that we have a longer-term service contract with 2A Communications.
Correct.
How often does that contract come up for renewal?
Yearly.
Yearly. Okay. Thank you.
Sorry. Seeing no other hands, if you could call the roll, please.
Councillor Finch.
Aye.
Councillor Sanders.
Aye.
Councillor Dumont.
Aye.
Councillor Kuiper.
Aye.
Councillor Matthews.
Aye.
Councillor Burns.
Aye.
Councillor Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
I have no further business with the council tonight. Do you need me to stick around for anything else?
All set.
Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you. All right. So next, oh, am I muted? No.
Nope, we can hear you.
All right. Next, we have Resolution 2019-2020-32, the creation of an Ordinance Oversight Committee.
I will make a motion to approve Resolution 2019-2020-32, the creation of an ordinance oversight committee.
I will second this.
Sorry, I'm trying to find. Okay, so thank you. Are there any questions, comments? Councillor Dumont?
Yes, so I would like to speak to this. A few meetings back, I don't remember when it was, but it feels like eons ago. There was some question about investigating or re-looking at our codes and ordinances to see if there's some stuff that may be out of date, language that need to be updated, stuff that we should take into consideration for potential changes. I believe Steve had recommended that it might be better off if there was a subset where we could actually do this as opposed to bringing individual items to the council every couple of weeks when we found something. So I wrote up this language a few weeks back and I passed it off to Steve. I modeled it after the original Energy and Environment Committee resolution. So thank you for that, Madam Chair. My thoughts on this were to have that subset of the town council where we could go through line by line things that were of interest to us, things that residents have brought in that we believe may need to either be modernized or may no longer be necessary, things that will help keep our town functioning properly and in the modern age. This was as best as I could get it. Maybe some concerns or question as to what we should do or shouldn't do with this. Ultimately, I would support passing this tonight, and I would hope that I could, get that from the rest of you folks as well.
Thank you, Councillor Kuiper.
I was just wondering, I'm not sure exactly who could answer this question, but Councillor Cass had brought up non-attached accessory dwelling units right before she left the council. And I'm just wondering if that would be something that this sort of a oversight committee would be looking at, or is that a planning board issue?
Madam Chair, if I may,
Please.
I would recommend that goes to the planning board. And I'm reading the ordinance as it relates to planning, as to zoning and ordinances such as that. It's up to the local legislative body to determine the manner in which zoning ordinances, historic district ordinance, or building code is established and amended, provided, however, that any questions concerning the establishment of an amending of a zoning ordinance, historic district, or building code, it's different, that's an election. The planning board shall forward to the town clerk all proposed amendments. Yeah, no, we don't have that. Just want to make sure that it traditionally the planning board comments on anything that relates to zoning and planning. That's the reason why you elect planning and zoning board members. And they're also there to hear the cases. Other than that, all the other, yes, it's the council's right to amend the ordinances as they seem fit, but traditionally it goes to the planning board first.
Steve, may I jump in for a second?
Madam Chair, that's your call. You muted, Madam Chair.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Dumont.
Yes, so in the interest of transparency, Mr. Kuiper, Steve and I had discussed potentially putting language on this, specifically excluding having this committee touch zoning and planning related issues. Personally, I would ask that the folks who sit on the ordinance oversight committee leave planning and zoning issues to the planning board itself. I think that it takes a certain level of expertise and more dedication that they have that would be better served from a planning board meeting as opposed to this committee. But I just wanted you to know that that did come up for consideration in the language.
I just wanted to remind the council that that's tradition. I'm sorry, the alarms. There's a call.
Yeah, and I think that when Councillor Cast brought that to our attention, it was because the planning board felt that it was their responsibility, and they just didn't want to go down the road of doing the work if this body wasn't interested in pursuing it. I think that was the if I remember the conversation around that. Councillor Finch.
I'm just in full support of this committee. I think it's a good idea, and I just wanted to kind of underscore the idea that this is a standing committee. So I do think that whatever, I don't think necessarily think it needs to be yearly, but I do think it's always valuable to review ordinances on a regular basis. So whatever the committee says, just to kind of keep a reminder or a note that, you know, revisit things every couple, 2 or 3 years, whatever it may be. But I appreciate this getting drafted.
Councillor Matthews.
Yeah, I also support this and think that building the consensus is probably a better idea than just ordinance changes every week to a meeting. On the zoning ordinances, I agree. I think the planning board can provide recommendations. They have a breadth of technical knowledge. I do think, though, that the ordinance committee in reviews might be able to say, not specifically like we should change a setback from 100 to 50 feet, but maybe in general broad terms, like the detached ADU, say, hey, this is something the council was interested in looking at. Would you all please take a look at it as well? I think we want to build the relationship with the planning board back and forth. So I don't think we should handle technical details at all, but for a broad general term, I think we should be okay sharing that, like the detached ADU.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Sure.
In addition, I think there are, as the chair, and I think Council Burns was there are a number of ordinances that we don't have that we need. And it was controversial that I brought up the raffle permits that you need to have by state law. We never had a law that what our town seal would say. Those are the kind of things that also that I could find and say, look, we have to have these, and we don't. Let's introduce them.
And I would even almost model it after the school board actually has a policy committee. And I'm pretty sure it's ongoing. I don't think that it ever really ends. They have so many policies that they're constantly reviewing. I mean, it's the same sort of thing. Like if you start with, you know, A, by the time you get to Z, you need to go back to A because it's a long process. Mm-hmm. So even potentially modeling it after that, just, you know, taking a chunk and they do a bunch obviously policies are different than ordinances. And the, you know, the mechanism that we have and the things that we have to go through in order to change an ordinance, it's a little bit different. We don't have the authority to just blanket, you know, make those changes without public hearings and whatnot. So so there's obviously some differences, but I think that modeling it after that would make a lot of sense to me. So Councillor Matthews, is that from before? Okay.
I'm really sorry about that. I keep forgetting to click that thing off.
All right. Councillor Dumont.
A question directed to the chairwoman. Is there interest in expanding membership to allow for a member or two of the public to sit on this committee? It was asked of me in when I was downtown earlier in the week, but it wasn't something I was comfortable with at first putting on there. I wasn't sure if this was something where we wanted to wait and see how it operates over the course of the next few months to a year, or if this is something that we wanted to address in the, you know, now.
It's an excellent question.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Sure.
I would suggest the council begins with this process. It's going to be tedious and you're only going to be reviewing the current ones, or unless we have one that we have to adopt that I find by state statute. And again, I think it's a good time to remind people too, for the public who may want to serve, that we're not a home rule state, we're a Dillon rule state, that we can only do what the legislature allows us to. So if public wants to serve, it's great, but I'm going to, as another elected official in another community said, I've never had somebody tell me no so much except my spouse. was me, because I have to say, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. If we don't have the authority, we can't do it.
Yeah, I personally agree that it's probably best to, because I had that same thought actually when I was looking through the resolution. I think it's probably best to keep this as a function of the council. And with any changes to any ordinances, we do have to have a public hearing. And so I think inviting the public in that way will be helpful, hopefully, and beneficial. And again, like I would suggest that any review, that there's a report, we've reviewed, this ordinance, that ordinance, that ordinance, and we didn't make any changes, or, this is the one that we are proposing a change to. Like, that's how I envision it. However, the committee ends up managing it, I'm not sure, but I think making sure it's transparent, I guess. So seeing no other hands, if you could call the roll.
Councilor Finch.
Aye.
Councilor Sanders.
Aye.
Councilor Dumont.
Aye.
Councilor Kuiper.
Aye.
Councilor Matthews.
Aye.
Councilor Burns.
Aye.
Councilor Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Great.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
before we get into the readings of resolutions in the first reading, as the council is aware, and I just need to make sure we do it publicly, I've appointed William Tappan as the Finance Director and Chief Information Officer of the town, and I need to seek the council's confirmation. Mr. Tappan has been serving as the interim Finance Director and CIO for the town on a contract basis for Municipal Resources, Inc. He previously served as the Vice President and CIO of Associated Grocers and Director of Operations for SAU 44, which is Northwood. Mr. Tappan will bring extensive knowledge of not only financial management, but also ways to improve our IT systems. The council has reviewed his resume, and I'm asking for the council to confirm my appointment.
I am not seeing any hands. So with that, and we did have the opportunity to review this. So seeing no hands, if you could call the roll, please.
I need a motion in a second
Oh, sorry.
I'll make a motion
to confirm my appointment.
to confirm your appointment.
I will second.
Okay, so now there's hands. Councilor Matthews?
Just sorry, was this on the agenda, or was this just a late ad that I might have missed?
It was an oversight from the last meeting.
Okay.
So I'm not seeing any others. So if you could call the roll.
Councilor Finch.
Aye.
Councilor Sanders.
Aye.
Councilor Dumont.
Aye.
Councilor Kuiper.
Aye.
Councilor Matthews.
Aye.
Councilor Burns.
Aye.
Councilor Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Councilor Dumont, I'm guessing that this is from before. I think we moved on too quickly.
It's okay. I'd like to make a motion to appoint 3 members of the town council to the newly minted ordinance oversight committee.
Second.
Do we need a second vote, a third reading on this?
No.
No.
No, we don't have a third reading. Yeah, I mean, I guess now that it's approved, it makes sense. Do people want to give it thought before we?
Traditionally, you do. You wait a meeting to see who wants to serve.
If there's consensus about waiting a meeting, then I'll withdraw my motion. Forgive my haste.
I'm not seeing any other comments, but I would think we would want to wait and just kind of let people give it some thought, because it's going to be a fairly large amount of work, I think.
Right. And councils, if you would like to submit so we can put your name on the agenda, you can be interested.
Does that work for you, Councilor Dumont? Are you?
Yeah, sorry, spacebar wasn't working again. I'm okay with that, and I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay. And Do you withdraw your second, Councillor Finch?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. I'm looking for my, sorry. All right, there's my agenda. So next on our agenda are resolutions in the first reading. And the first,
Want me to read it?
no, I got it. Thank you. Oh, I had it. Oh, it went away. It's resolution 2019-2020-34 on the increase of water and sewer rate. Whereas water and sewer rates shall be determined by the town council from time to time in amounts that will adequately cover the costs of operation, maintenance, and repair of existing infrastructure, and also for reasonable extensions and replacements to existing mains, and toward acquisition of future water supply, plant, and equipment. Whereas the town of Newmarket is moving forward with water construction projects to improve water capacity, quality, and distribution, and the town has constructed a new wastewater treatment facility and needs to raise additional income to cover the capital improvement costs. Now, therefore, let it be resolved, the town council does hereby approve the following water rates to be effective for the August 2020 quarterly billing. Water and sewer users will be billed $5.75 and $12 per 100 cubic feet of water consumed respectively. First reading June 3rd, 2020. And the second resolution is resolution 2019-2020-33, construction services for the McIntosh and Tucker Well treatment project. Whereas the town needs to construct water treatment at the McIntosh blending facility for the McIntosh and Tucker wells to meet the new arsenic standard of 5, I don't know what is that term?
Sorry, wait a minute.
What's
yeah.
UG?
I'm not sure.
Okay, it's not just me.
No.
And whereas the town has agreement for Kinsman Corporation to construct the improvements, and whereas Wright Pierce was selected through a qualifications-based selection process as required by the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, and whereas Wright Pierce has completed design for the McIntosh and Tucker Well treatment project. Now therefore be it resolved by the Newmarket Town Council that the Newmarket Town Council authorizes the town manager to enter into an agreement with Wright Pierce for $569,000 for construction administration services and oversight for the McIntosh and Tucker Well treatment project. First reading, June 3rd, 2020. And we get back to our meeting so that I can see everyone. I have all these windows open. So the next item is any correspondence to the town council?
There was none.
Oh, I'm sorry. There are a couple hands up. I apologize. Councillor Dumont.
Point of information, 5 UG/L is 5 microliters.
Microliters, thank you. And Councillor Kuiper.
Under the water billing, it said fiscal impact. Scroll down, and it says average single family home consumes money sign 24,500. I don't think that's supposed to be a money sign. I don't think each home is.
I'll ask the water and sewer.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And so any closing comments by town councilors? Councillor Dumont? No?
Oops, sorry, that's an old one.
Oh, okay. Councillor Matthews?
Hey everyone, we got another event tomorrow, Thursday night from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. The Newmarket Community Church is hosting a interfaith prayer vigil, and as Steve said, he is going to be there. Chief Drew is going to be there. Pastor Patty, I guess Reverend Patty, and Rogers Johnson, the president of the NAACP. So my wife and I are going to be there and would urge you to attend.
Thank you.
It's at Shonda Park.
And I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the rec department. They hosted a pretty fabulous event last week, and let's hear it for our heroes. I'm not sure what the final number for funds raised was, but I know that they were, at the time I signed off, they were pretty close to their goal. So I'm not sure if they reached it or not. And it was benefiting 5 different organizations based in Newmarket, and so that was one piece of it. But then also just the entertainment and the energy was pretty awesome. So I wanted to mention that, and then also the masquerade food drives that they've been doing every Friday evening or afternoon, I guess. This coming Friday is the last one. So the neighborhoods are listed on their website, and they've been really promoting that through Facebook and social media. So I wanted to make sure that I commented on those. Councillor Matthews, was that from before or is that new? Councillor Sanders.
When I had Amy swing by our house for the food drive the other day, she said they had reached $4,800 as of Friday. So they were only $200 short of their $5,000 goal. So shout out to Amy for all she does for the town.
Yeah, so great. Her and Kim are just quite a team, and we're really lucky to have them. So awesome. Well, I'm not seeing hands, so our next meeting is in 2 weeks. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.